Okay guys, welcome back to part 2 of creating a weather app with Weather API. So we have the HTML and CSS done. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. We went through all the HTML and CSS. If you just want to skip to where we are now, there's a link in the description to the HTML and CSS, so you can just jump in right here, start coding the JavaScript. So what we want to do now is we want to start getting the information from that API. Now we need to make that request, remember that? So we need to send that request off to the freeCodeCamp Weather API, and then they will return us some information. Then we've got to decipher that information and put that where we want on our page. So first things first, let's get this CSS out of the way. We might need the JavaScript just for a few names. Sorry, the HTML for a few names. So we now need to add jQuery. And with CodePen, super easy. At the side of where you have JS, you have your little settings cog. So if you just click on that settings cog, and if you look towards the bottom of this JavaScript pane, you'll see quick add. Click on that. I have it near the top, jQuery there. You might have it near the jQuery UI. We just want the jQuery one, so just click on the jQuery, save and close, and that's just created that link for us. So now we can have access to all the jQuery functions, methods, and everything like that. So setting up jQuery, we need to actually do a few things to start with. So we need to set an environment for jQuery up. And how we do that is the dollar symbol, which is the jQuery kind of default. So this is a jQuery item. And we say, yo, jQuery, when this document, and the document being the page, when this document is ready, so when it's finished loading, I want you to do something. So function is to do something. So I want you to do something, and this is what you're going to do. So this is the environment set up for jQuery. So hey jQuery, when the document is ready, loading, do something for me. And the first thing we want to do is we actually want to say, send that request, right? So let's create a function. Let's call it weather. And what this function does is it sends that request, and we don't have to build this because jQuery has a nice little function already for us, and we just need to call it. So let's say dollar, so we're saying hey jQuery, how about that get JSON function you have, right? And so basically the get JSON function is, or method is, takes two parameters. So it says, hey, well, what do you want me to make this request to? Where do you want me to make this request? So it needs the URL. Then I'll say, right, so I've got this information you sent. What do you want me to do with it? So this is a function because it's saying, what do you want to do? So first of all, we need a URL. And if you look in the description of this video, you will see that I've left the URL there for you just to copy out. And the URL, let's create a variable for it. So we're going to create a variable called URL. And this is the variable. This is where we're sending that request. So freeCodeCamp weather, glitch me API. We want the current weather, right? We don't want a 5-day forecast or a 16-day for this one. But it also needs a latitude and longitude. It needs to know, well, where in the world do you want the weather from, right? So let's save in that URL, and let's use that URL here, right? Then the function says, right, I'm going to return you something, so you need to give it a name so you can actually see what I've returned. So let's call it data. Then here, let's console log that data, right? So now we can see if we send this request, what information is it giving us back? I'm going to do that in terminal. So let's just open it here. Right, so console. You can see it's just thrown a load of objects at us here. Let's have a look. Console log data, send the URL. We need to, we haven't called this weather function yet. We've set it up and said this is what a weather function is going to do, but we actually haven't said, yo, weather function, go for it. So let's do that. So let's call this weather function like this. I'm just going to clear all this junk that's in here and just refresh this. I'm just going to add a space here to refresh it. And in our logs, because we've console logged it, we have this data. This is the response that we have gotten from the freeCodeCamp API. So we can look into this. Look, it's an object. So we have things like clouds, so it must tell us the cloud coverage, longitude and latitude, which we know because we gave them that. But it told us our name of our city. We didn't tell them the name of our city or town. We gave it the longitude and latitude, but it knows. Then we have down here this weather, which is an array, not an object, with another object in it. And it's telling us broken clouds. It's giving us the icon for the weather. So, first of all, let's change the name of our city to the normal name. So it's within our object and it's the name property. So I'm just going to close that up. So let's create a function for this, right? So let's create a function that updates the DOM. So I'm going to say function update DOM, right? And what this update DOM does, it gets the data. Let's say we're going to call this update DOM from in here. So when we run this weather function, it's going to get that data for us, and it's also going to then run the update DOM function, and it's going to give it that data. So it's going to say, hey, this is the data I have, it's that object. You'll need it to do what you need to do. So now we're updating DOM and we have that data passed into it. So let's do the city. So var city, let's create a variable called city, and we want this variable to actually to take its information from that object, so data object, and it was under name, right? So now we have a variable that should hopefully say my city name, which is Nottingley, right? So now we need to update the DOM. So let's go and find that. So we're using jQuery to select our city. Oops, I need to put this in quotes. So we need to go into the DOM, find the element with an ID of city. What I wanted to do then, I wanted to change the HTML of this, because I don't want it to be leads. I wanted to go in there and change the HTML and give it the name of the city. Oh, and there you go, straight away. So just to recap, we've made the request and we're sending this data to a new function that only deals with updating things on our page. So now we're going into this data object and we've basically said, hey, find a city on the page and replace everything within its HTML with what I have here, right? And we're going to do that for everything. So let's do the temperature next. So var temp equals. So we know it's in the data because that's what we got. That's what we get back. So let's go to the console again and let's find this object So we now need to find the temperature. So here it is, main temp. Right. So let's do that. So data main temp, right? So we have that sat in a variable now waiting for us to use it. So let's use it the same way. jQuery, we're going to find the ID, we're going to find the item temp on the page, and we're going to change its inner HTML to temp. Oh, right, so now we have a decimal. Now this is a problem. We don't want to be dealing with decimals. So why don't we use JavaScript to round this number for us? So data.main.temp is what we want to round. So we need to wrap that within math.round parentheses and wrap it. So the math.round function, the method, takes the argument data.main.temp. And there you go, it's rounded it up or down for us. It'll find which one's closer and it'll do it. Right, so that's looking pretty good. Let's do this description now. So var description equals data. Well, let's find out where it is. So it is, here's the object. So we need that description, which is in weather, which is an array this time. 0, we want the zeroth array position, and it's there, look, description, broken clouds. So remember it being a weather array. So we need to say weather at the 0th position. I'm sure that's a word. And it's actually called description is what we want, right? So now we should have that. Let's see if we can display that. So find that description on our page for us and change the inner HTML, the HTML, to description. And sunny becomes broken clouds. Right, there we go. So we're almost there. We just need this icon now. So let's do that icon. So var icon, and it's in the same place as the weather, the description was. So data dot weather at the 0th position, and it was called icon because I remember it. Right. So now we just need to display it to the DOM. So there we go. We select the element, which is icon. Nope, we need to wrap it in quotes, don't forget. Oops. Wrap it in quotes. And this time we don't say HTML because the image doesn't have a HTML to change. We need to change the source, which is an attribute of that element. So to do that, we say, hey, select the icon, and I want to change an attribute within this tag. And the first argument is which attribute you want to change. So we want to change the source, and then we want to say, what do we want to change the source with? Well, we want to change the source with icon. And there you go. We have that icon right there. So we're almost there, but this is weather for Nottingham, and there's not many developers I know in Nottingham, so this is probably not where you are. So why don't we use geolocation of your device to pull out the longitude and latitude? So the way we want to do this is, let's go to the top and let's call, I'll just do a little thing here, so get location, right? And how we do that is we need to call the navigator, right? And we want to call geolocation. We're going into this object, right? We want to call it geolocation. We want to get the current position, so get current. Remember the capital C there. Position, and you can see it's come up and told us, hey, is this what you want? So yeah, I can press enter and it'll finish that for me. So navigator, geolocation, get current position, and we can have a success or an error from that, right? So if we have a success, what do we want to do with it? So there we go, what do we want to do again? So it's a function, right? So we want a success function, right? So this is our success function, and the information we get, let's call it pos, it's position. So we want to now get the latitude and longitude out of this geolocation, and let's store them in a variable. So let's do variable lat equals pos dot, so we'll go into our data because we call it pos, coords dot latitude. I always spell it wrong. Latitude, yep, that's right. And the second place is var long equals pos dot coords dot longitude. And you can do this like we did with the data coming back from the API. You could console log out pos and work out where you need to go from there, right? So now we have those variables saved. But they're no good just sitting in this function, right? We need to send them to that weather function because that's the API call. So we will call that weather function and send these with it. So lat and long are being sent now to this weather API. Now we can remove this old call to the weather API because they'll be calling it twice now and we don't want that. So just above where we had update DOM, there's your weather call. Take that out, because now it's being called from within this success function, right? We also need to handle in case it's an error. So let's say if there's an error, let's just console.log error right there. So now we said, hey, we're gonna, if it's successful and we've got these coordinates, we're gonna send them to weather. So now we can use them within this weather. So let's just say, okay, the first one is called lat and the second one is called long. So we've sent that to the weather API request. Now we have to use them. And we're going to use an ES6 function, which is one of the newer types of JavaScript. And instead of the usual way you would have to close quotes, add a plus symbol, add your variable, plus symbol again, open your quotes, we can use, instead of these single quotes, we can use backticks. So backtick here, a backtick here, and this is called, I always forget the name, some type of string interpolation. So now we want to just find the old static latitude, and here's how we replace it. We say dollar symbol, curly brackets, then we just need to put in that variable that we got passed, which is latitude, right? So we got latitude passed into the weather function, and now we're using it. Same with longitude. Remember the minus as well, there's a minus in there. Let's delete that out. Dollar symbol, curly brackets, longitude, and now that will use the custom latitude and longitude for that area, right? And that should be good. I think we should be good with that. So if I just change, well, I could do changing something here. I'm going to change this to 44, right? Just to see what it does for me. Oh, it's lit et mixe. So that sounds maybe France, right? So it is working, the longitude is working. If I put that latitude back in, It knows we're Nottingham. It changes all that stuff. What we can do, just for housekeeping, we can delete all the stuff in between our tags here because we don't want that flicker to come. And there we go. We can delete this console log. We don't need it anymore. And that's our JavaScript. We have got our location. We have, when it's a success, we have sent it to the weather app, our latitude and longitude. Now the weather function has made a request to our custom geolocation. And when the data has come back, it said, hey, we have this data information now. Why don't you update all the DOM elements for us? And that's all there is to it. You know, not that many lines of code. I think it's quite an easy one. And I hope that's a good intro to show you what you can do with APIs. There's lots of them out there. You know, Google has a bunch of them for the maps and things like that. YouTube has them, so you can pull playlist information. Twitter, so you can tweet. Facebook has them. Even this login information stuff where you can log in with Facebook, that is using an API. Some of them you need API keys for, so people know, so the companies know who's using it. But yeah, they're great. They're very powerful, and you can start making your apps more dynamic now. And it's a lot of fun when you start getting into APIs and using them. It can be a lot of fun digging into the responses you get and displaying them. So I hope that's been good for you guys. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Leave me a comment. Let me know how I could make these videos better, what you thought of the videos. And yeah, I hope to see you guys soon.